Where'll you be going?
Texas?
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Go on, make it happen.
And now here's Steve and Michelle.
Welcome from the heart of Dripping Springs. We are Mallet and Michelle, hosted by me, Michelle Lewis, and Steve Mallet.
Michelle, how are you?
I'm very grumpy.
You are grumpy, but you know what? I feel freaking great.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
I'm having a good day. I went for a 6-mile run this morning. I went to the gym for an hour. Just got jacked. Feel good.
You know what I did this morning? I went around my bathroom and with a wooden dowel, and I tapped all the tiles to see if any of my tiles were lifting from the flood in my house.
Your home is your castle. That's where you are comfortable, and it is in complete chaos right now.
It is complete chaos. And you know, they say a real test of a relationship is when you're going through like a renovation or building a home.
It's true.
It is very much true.
It's so true.
And we've already done this once, like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And through
and that was when you wanted to do it. You did it on your own time, your own schedule. Now you're having to do it because you had a
$12 dishwasher part fail.
Broke and filled your downstairs with water.
Yes, but we have a really good guy that's helping us out with Black Slate Construction. I'll give him a little shout out.
Yeah, Hunter, he's a good guy.
He's the calm in the storm right now.
Yeah. I heard you on the phone. You and Todd on the phone with him a little bit a while ago, and I agree. He is the calm in the storm. Yeah. He's just like, we're going to get it done. It's all going to happen.
Yeah, it's happening. It's happening. Yeah. Well, what's going on? Oh, well, we just need to thank our sponsors.
Yes,
too.
we do. Yeah, M. Elliott Studio,
Capital Farm Credit,
Nomic Power Solutions. Cody's episode came out this morning.
That's right. And Mallet Integrity Team, for sure.
Yeah. Guest today, Kris Betts, former KVUE news anchor, journalist.
Emmy Award-winning journalist. She now owns Kris Betts Designs. She's an interior decorator, but she has some interesting stories, background, and the fact that was, I guess if you were a journalist, are you not a journalist ever? I mean, she probably still has that mindset where she's always digging and
I know,
searching.
yeah. I want to ask her a lot about that. We were talking about getting press passes and all the ethics and laws that go along with that because we got invited to some events as press. What a weird journey this podcast has been, hasn't it? We're being invited to MC events and invited as press to these galas. And
does that mean that we're paparazzi? Oh my goodness.
No, I think paparazzi's negative. I think they like us. So.
Oh, okay.
Hey, I got a quick real estate minute. We haven't done Mallet on the market anytime recently. The Fed, so when this comes out, the Fed will have met last week, but the Fed's meeting tomorrow to talk about dropping the short-term interest rate, which should drive down mortgage interest rates. And that is signaling to me that we may hit, if you're waiting for the bottom, I think this is it. I think it's going to get better for sellers from here on out. So if you're a buyer and you've been waiting for interest rates to drop and for home prices to be at the lowest they're going to be, this is the week. I think it's right now.
You think so?
Yeah. I'm not in a position to acquire any more real estate, but if I was, I would be looking to buy something right now.
A lot of our listings right now have had some uptick in showings and activity.
Way more activity,
yeah.
Austin's still a great market. It's still a wonderful city. We've got lots of tech here. Those people are all, there's going to be some layoffs, but they're actually backfilling some of the jobs. So, yeah, this is it. I think this is the time. I don't think it's going to get any better than it is right now.
Well, that'll be nice. That'll be nice for everybody.
Nice? Yep.
Be nice for everybody.
Yeah. We got a call yesterday. We actually asked Mayor Bill Folds for a comment about the Gateway Mobile Home Park, which is a developer bought it. And I can't remember how many residents now. I think it's 30.
I thought it was 30 to 40, somewhere around there. Uh-huh.
The developer gave them notice they had to get out in 60 days. There's kind of an uproar in the community. People reached out to the city, some other organizations,
these
Project Connect and Hometown Missions.
Lower income.
Mostly lower income. Some of them have been there for a long time. And the community kind of pulled together and met with this developer and have been negotiating to help with these. Because I think in the beginning, some people were like, no, you can't kick these people out, which that didn't last very long because it's his property and they don't have long-term leases. They had 30-day leases. He actually legally can kick them out. But then they started negotiating for either a longer period of time or some help from him. He has been a little bit, he has come around and he's been more agreeable. He's actually even agreed to give some funds to help these people move. Robert Avera has a mobile home park off of Martin Road, and I think some of the residents are going to be moved there. The Project Connect, which Dripping Springs Elite just wrote a check to for $1,000, they are helping some of these people financially move these mobile homes. Some of them can't be moved. They're not in condition to
and
move.
even some of these mobile home parks won't accept some of these homes, I guess, if they're older than 20 years or 15 years old. So
yeah. So some of these are older than that. So the conversation with Bill, my big takeaway on that, the city has done everything that they are capable of doing within the confines of the ordinances that they have, state laws, federal laws. That, at some point, I think there are people out there that think, oh, well, the city could do whatever they want, but the city doesn't get to pick and choose winners and losers in these arguments. They are bound. They have guidelines, legal guidelines that they're bound to.
They're not in the city limits, right?
They're in the ETJ, and the city doesn't have as much control over the ETJ as they do in the city limits. But remember, the city's not somebody down there that, whoever's got their ear is the one they're going to go to and give the benefit of the doubt. They're bound by these guidelines about what they can do in this, but they've done everything within their power to help this situation where these people can get moved to better places, other places, not necessarily
the
better.
city is. It was so great talking to Mayor Folds, and I thought it was really gracious of him to kind of fill us in and what the city was doing. But so what can we do as citizens now? We're wanting to help out. So the city is doing what the city is doing legally and lawfully and following things. The developer, I think, is trying to work with.
He's already extended. At first he said 60 days. He's already extended that out.
So average Joe citizen.
A couple things. Hometown Missions, Chuck Lamond, who's a good friend of ours, Dave Edwards, who's also a friend. They from Hometown Missions. They have gone and looked at every mobile home in that park to find out what it's going to take to move it. They've met with movers. They've met with the ones that couldn't be moved. They've met with people that will buy them for whatever reason. And at this point, according to Mayor Bill, most of the neighbors now have a plan to move, which
really?
is huge. Because, when this whole thing started, they were like, there's nothing we can do in 60 days. Some of these people honestly might have been homeless. So they are working through coming up with a plan. If you want, as just a regular citizen, reach out to Hometown Missions or Project Connect. You can help financially. There may be some legwork involved. Eventually, they may raise some work crews when they start moving these things. It's been really cool to watch this community pull together to help people that are maybe not as blessed or fortunate as some of us are, to get them moved to places where they're comfortable and they live a good, healthy, happy life. So that's kind of a quick update on the Gateway Mobile Home Park. If both of those organizations, Project Connect, Hometown Missions, have websites, I'd reach out to them and find out how you can help out.
Well, I applaud everybody that's kind of brought this to the public's attention. One of them is, and I always butcher her last name, Carrie
Napierkowski.
She kind of filled us in, but I think she was really kind of spearheading a lot of this.
Yeah, I think she's connected with Project Connect. Yeah.
So kudos to her. So Micah Scott, you remember our guest, Micah Scott?
Still, I think one of our definitely in the top 3 most listened to podcasts.
Absolutely. He's an amazing guy. If you haven't listened to that podcast, go back and listen to it. But Micah has a new venture that he's starting, and it's called Sober Sun. Sober Sun is a new online retail platform proudly announcing its launch coming this October. And it's dedicating to offering modern and stylish merchandise for individuals in recovery and their support system. But this is where I thought was very interesting. They're also going to provide resources, not only celebrate the recovery, but also provide resources, and a portion of their profits they're going to support these local recovery centers. And one of their goals, they said, is Sober Sun aims to foster a community and resilience of hope.
That's pretty cool.
I really think it's neat what they're doing. Micah is he was very open and honest about his journey and his
it was an
recovery journey.
emotional podcast. He talked about his journey to sobriety and and the depths that he fell to before he realized he needed to get out of that lifestyle.
Well, you know, his wife, Ashley, we're going to have her on the podcast as well. And she was quoted as saying, "Our goal is to create a space where people in recovery and their loved ones can find meaningful and modern items that reflect their journey and dedication." I think sometimes a lot of times the forgotten people on the sober journey are the loved ones that have supported them.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really great that Ashley is co-founding
so it's
this.
Sober Sun. Is it Sober Sun like child or sun like a star?
Like child, SOBERSONE, and it's going to be sober.
SONE.
SON. And I just said SON and I was a run-on sentence. But it's www.sobersun.com, or I'm sorry, shopsobersun.com.
Pretty cool. But go back and listen to his episode. You'll probably feel called to check out their website too. You had a story about iPhones.
Oh my goodness.
I had one last week that I didn't have a chance to get to, so I'm going to pepper your story with some of the things that I've learned.
Is your phone messing up lately? Mine has.
No, I heard that. Yeah, you were telling me that.
Yeah, my touch screen sometimes. My phone is not that old. Like
is
less
it a
than
14?
14 plus, I think is what it is. Sometimes when I'm touching it, it's not opening or it's not working. My contacts randomly disappear. So like, it says, "Oh, maybe Steve Mallet." You got a text from maybe, and then I have to put your contact in again.
Actually, that did start happening to me a couple weeks ago, but it's cleared up. Have you downloaded all the updates?
I'm about to burn my entire life to the ground right now. If one more thing freaking breaks on me, I promise you, I'm going to lose my mind. But
Michelle's going to crawl into the gutter and cry.
I'm going to crawl into the gutter. But they've released that iPhone 16. And along with this new iPhone release, there's some really cool features that are going to happen. There's an AI feature. Now, some of the AI features have already been released, and some of them are going to be updated a little bit later with that iOS 18.1.
Which iOS 18 is available now.
But 18.1.
Well, 18.1, I think, adds in the AI features. But I downloaded iOS 18 last night, and there's some pretty cool little upgrades.
So I asked you this yesterday, and you hadn't heard of it. Do you know what a Gen-moji is?
No.
It's an AI-generated emoji, but so you could say, I don't know, give me a cowboy turtle, and it'll create an emoji for you. Yeah, it's kind of like, it reminds me of those filters where like you could make somebody a giraffe or something. But you can also now search in your videos, which you couldn't do before.
Okay.
It has an improved Siri, which is an AI generated Siri, and that is when you want to go down the rabbit hole on that feature alone is what they're saying is the dangerous aspect of it, because it's garnering all of the information, all of the websites, everything that you're searching, and now it's building their AI quote database. But there's also going to be the new feature called Apple Intelligence, and it'll sort the messages.
That was my thing. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but they're not calling it AI. They're calling it Apple Intelligence. And it seems to be intentional to me that they're avoiding saying AI. Because maybe AI is getting kind of a bad rap. But go ahead. What were you going to say?
You'll be able to sort your messages. It'll offer writing suggestions, which that should be fun with me, and create a more powerful Siri powered by AI is kind of what I was talking about. Powered by AI, but it's not it's artificial intelligence, but
Yeah.
they're calling it
Yeah.
Apple Intelligence. So I don't know. It's have you seen the glasses now that you can talk on the glasses?
Oh yeah, Ray-Ban. They have Wayfarer sunglasses that have a video camera and audio built into them, so you can. It's almost like wearing a GoPro as your sunglasses. You can just walk around and take random video, and the audio is actually pretty good.
That's weird.
Yeah, I know. I'm not even sure what to be worried about
I know,
anymore
right?
because there's so much stuff. So I downloaded this iOS 18 last night, and there's a couple things that I've only just now started using it, but you can schedule texts. So one of my things is I get up at 4:30 in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning,
joy.
and I've got 6 texts from people, and I'm like, well, I want to respond, but it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Some of these people don't use Do Not Disturb. So then I have to set it as a reminder or just mark it unread, and then at 8 o'clock I'll reply. Well, now you can schedule texts. So I can write my response. I did it this morning for a DSE thing with UND.
Oh.
I wrote that text at 4 o'clock this morning, and I scheduled it for 8, and it's sent out at 8 o'clock. That's pretty cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool.
You can redo your home screen. So my home screen now, the icons look completely different than normal. I don't know. Actually, it changes it back when you go on to Do Not Disturb. But
You know what? One of the cool things that I think I'm excited about is the voice recordings. It'll take your voice
yes,
recordings
and
Remember?
transcribe
Yeah.
them. Yes, that was one of the ones I had. Yeah. You can add more control into the command center, which probably makes the command center easier to use. One of the things I'm super excited about in October.
Nerd.
Yeah, the AirPod Pro 2, I think it is going to be released as a hearing aid.
Oh.
Yeah, huh?
Interesting.
So for $249, I think the way it works is say me and you and our not that I wouldn't use them during the podcast, are sitting around the table talking. I can put those ear pods in and put my phone here, and the speaker in my phone will send the audio of you guys talking to those hearing aids. So those AirPods. So I might try that because
they have to redo the AirPods for me. I need child AirPods because my ear holes are little.
You got little tiny.
I got little ear holes.
Yeah. So anyway, there's some cool things. I looked at maybe an iPhone 16. I still have a 14 and it works fine, but that's what old people tend to say.
That's true. True. Hey, do you remember good old Dustin from Austin?
Dustin from Austin, my nemesis.
Yes, but I don't even know if Dustin from Austin is a real person. But I just want to tell you that there was a TikTok. I showed it to you yesterday.
Yep.
And disparaged our favorite barbecue place here in town, Pigpen. And this guy, I had already followed him. I think that's why I ran across it. I had followed him because he goes into restaurants and he reviews them, mostly the ramen places, like all throughout. And I was actually shocked that he was in Dripping Springs. And when it came up as Pigpen, I was like, oh, well, this is interesting. Oh, let me sit down and let me watch this. He just trashed from the front of the house to the back of the house. Everything.
Pretty much
about
everything. Yeah, I was surprised because I really like their food. I think it's some of the best around.
Well, Bill doesn't have TikTok, so I couldn't send him the TikTok. So what I ended up doing, I screen recorded it and sent it to him.
Ooh, you're so techie.
Right? Oh, no, that was something that you showed me to do. And I had to Google on how to do it too. But I asked him, I talked to him yesterday and I said, look, I want to talk about this, because we've talked about how people, they review places and they don't really, I get if you've had a bad experience, right? But everything, that's what Bill and I was
couldn't find a positive thing to say. I almost felt like his whole MO from that video is to go around and trash places.
Well, and it was like, oh, this is the best of Dripping Springs. And what he did say at the end of the video, and he said, oh, you should go up to if you want good barbecue, go to North Austin. And it's like, please sit down.
Sounds like he had an agenda like Dustin from Austin.
Maybe. But I asked Bill for a response, right? And so one of the things that they read at the very first of the video, they talked about or reviewed his mac and cheese. And they said, the mac and cheese, The Kraft mac and cheese would have been better. So here's Bill's response to this. Bill said, although I appreciate your perspective and agree with you about the mac, which has been dealt with, which is nice because, everybody has an off day.
Acknowledge it, that you've made a little mistake and move on.
We have around 600 plus 5 stars that day. We have around 600 plus 5 stars. That day we were above average. Feel free to come back and let us show you what's up, Bill. What does that mean? We are above average. Oh, I mean, above average on the stars. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And he says, P.S. I don't have TikTok. And
I don't understand this media trend of a social media trend of trashing people. It makes no sense to me. The old saying your mom had, if you don't have anything good to say, just keep your mouth shut. I mean, or
sit next to Michelle.
Yeah, or sit next to Michelle. I don't know what good comes out of that because the food's really good. I've never heard anybody in there complaining. We go there once or twice a week. I always enjoy it. I don't understand you responded to that guy.
I responded to the TikTok and I said, false, you're wrong on every level. I love Pigpen. And then he said, what is it that you like about it? So he actually responded back to me on the TikTok. And I said, I love all of the Mexican food. Yeah. I love the turkey is to die for. I've had probably pretty much everything on that menu. I haven't had anything that was bad. There's what they used to have, which I wish they would bring back when they had the trailer, was the broccoli salad. That stuff was yummy. But you know what? Whatever. I mean, you can't hit every mark, but you know what? I'm just going to tell you, Dustin from Austin, you're
you can't hide from us.
You can't hide
we
from
can
us.
spot you on TikTok.
Yeah, for sure. I know who you are.
Yeah. I've got one quick story and then we'll finish up and get Kris Betts in here. How TV dinners comforted and then killed America.
Oh, TV dinners.
TV dinners were first introduced into America when we started transitioning into two-income families.
Uh-huh.
So 1953 was Swanson introduced the first TV dinner. It's hard to believe that was 70 years ago.
Those were, I wasn't around in 1953, but when I was a kid, those were
getting a TV dinner. It was like when mom pulled those out of the freezer, you were like, woo, it's going to be a good night.
You know what the difference was? It was made in the oven and it was foil backed. It was in a foil hot. Ooh, it was hot. You'd sit on your little TV tray. Mm.
Yeah. Well, the first one was a turkey dinner. And actually the first Swanson turkey dinner was actually a pretty nutritious, well-rounded meal, not full of a lot of preservatives and artificial flavors and things. But that marked the tradition, the end of the tradition of the family meals, because instead you'd get these TV dinners, and if you had a TV dinner, there was a TV tray, and guess what else there was? There was a TV.
Well, some people call them frozen dinners. Like I've always called them TV dinners, right?
But it was a marketing push to get people to buy these dinners, and I think it was sort of a unnecessary, they didn't realize the outcome of this was going to be the start of the degrading of the family, because you used to sit around the dinner table and eat dinner together, and now you'd be sitting there watching whatever the 3 or 4 news channels or TV channels that were probably 2 back then.
No, I look back at it fondly. I look back at the apple or the brownie. I always like to get the apple,
cherry pie,
the apple crumble,
the lava cherry pie.
Yeah.
Remember that? It'd come out of the oven. For like 30 minutes, you couldn't even stick your fork in it. It was so hot.
Now, I didn't like mashed potatoes, and I didn't like macaroni and cheese when I was a kid. So my brother, I would trade. Like they'd get my mac or my mashed potatoes, and I'd get that. But yeah, what was your favorite?
I like the fried chicken.
I didn't. You know what I didn't like about the fried chicken? I don't like food on a bone. And when you get the little,
they did, yeah. Well, so as time went on, the manufacturers of these TV dinners started adding in more preservatives, more sodium. Remember Hungry Man dinners, the big dinners. So it would be more than in one sitting, you'd have more than a day's worth of calories.
I can't tell you the last time I had a TV dinner.
I can't remember
I
either.
can't.
But you know what else coincided with this was the introduction of really highly processed food to America.
I could see that. Yeah.
And now look at what we eat in this
norm.
country.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, you go into the store. One of my things I do is I look in people's shopping carts, and you
shopping cart stalker.
Yes, I'm not a stalker. I'm a judger. There's a difference, but you know, and I do it too.
I do the same thing.
But you know, I go, damn. You know, there's like 17 processed foods there. Holly and I try and eat a lot of fresh stuff. We still eat some crap, just like everybody else. But ultra processed foods. Also, this time coincided with, you ever seen pictures from the 50s and 60s of a large group of people in the United States and notice they're not all fat?
Yeah.
Well, so this introduction of these ultra-processed foods also introduced obesity, diabetes, more incidents of cancer, heart disease.
So what you're saying is we need to bring back the OG TV dinner.
The original one. But I don't know if they could do it now without all the seed oils and the sodium and the extra calories and the preservatives.
Have you ever noticed when somebody in the office here makes their lunch and they have a TV dinner or frozen dinner, it doesn't matter what it is, they all have that distinct smell. It doesn't matter if it's like chicken fried rice.
It smells like poison to me.
It smells like poison.
Yeah, but it's interesting that there was this whole marketing revolution and nobody really knew what was going on. But here we are 70 years later, and ultra processed foods are a big part of our life.
Well, go to Pigpen. Dude, that's fast.
That's right.
That's easy.
And it's not ultra processed by any means. That's all handmade stuff.
That's all handmade. That's right.
Well, let's take a little break and get Kris Betts in here.
Yes.
I'm excited. This is going to be a good one.
You know what? I really am too. I have known her husband's family for a very, very long time. Her nephew by marriage was Logan's best friend growing up. Kris loved, his name is Kris Eveleth, and he loves to tell the story. I was the first house that he ever spent the night at, and he woke me up at 2-3 o'clock in the morning. He was like, Logan's mom, I want to go home.
Aww.
And I said, Kris, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. No, we're going to have donuts in the morning. Go to bed. And he went back to bed. That's
great. What a great story.
Yeah.
Well, and don't upset her, because Kris Betts is also a boxer.
Maybe I can hire her out.
You probably need that with the insurance company.
That's true.
Sit tight. We'll take a little break and be right back with Kris Betts.
Are you tired of being left in the dark when the power goes out? Say goodbye to blackouts with Nomic Power Solutions.
As your full-service Generac dealer, they offer individually designed backup power solutions.
From start to finish, they've got you covered.
Nomic Power Solutions, keeping you powered up.
Call or text 512-387-4232 or visit nomicpower.com. Follow on Instagram at Nomic Power for updates.
Nomic Power Solutions. Protect your home, protect your family, stay ready. Proudly sponsored by...
At Capital Farm Credit, they understand that owning land is more than just a transaction. It's a legacy, a future, and a place to call your own.
For generations, Capital Farm Credit has been the trusted lending partner for land loans, farmers, ranchers, and rural dreamers just like you.
Their personalized loan solutions cater to your unique needs, making the journey to land ownership smoother than ever.
Capital Farm Credit, your land, your legacy. Visit CapitalFarmCredit.com or Mark Rutledge at 512-892-4425.
Capital Farm Credit, an equal credit housing lender.
Interior design should be an investment in your life and home. Let M. Elliott Studio transform your space, where interior design meets excellence in Central Texas.
Beyond just selecting colors and furnishings, team principal and owner, Montana Elliott, is a trained and licensed interior designer.
With her knowledge of architectural principles, building codes, space planning, and design theory, her team will work with you to understand your needs and lifestyle.
From concept to completion, M. Elliott Studio is committed to enhancing your space with a timeless and classic style.
Ready to redefine your space?
melliottstudio.com, 512-781-0224.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Mallet Integrity Team of real estate professionals. They are based in Dripping Springs and bring you over 45 years of combined experience helping people reach their hill country real estate dreams. When you want the best in town, call them at 512-829-2062 or look them up at malletintegrityteam.com. And now, here's Steve and Michelle.
And we're back here with Kris Betts, the Emmy award-winning journalist, and now she is a designer. How are you, Kris?
Good. Happy today.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks
Happy
for
to
coming in.
Be here and be home and be back.
Back in Dripping Springs.
Well,
Bless.
back in the hill country.
Yeah.
You've had quite a journey to get back here, but we want to talk about a little bit how you began. So you grew up here in Texas, right?
Yeah. Well, the joke is, I wasn't born here, but I got here as fast as I could. So I was born on the East Coast, and my parents moved here when I was 6 for my dad's job to the Dallas area. So that's where I grew up. Went to Baylor for 2 years, met my now ex-husband, and so I moved to Austin to be with him and transferred to UT Austin. And that's what led me to Austin. And I joke that I fell in love with the city long before I ever fell in love with him, and that's a long time ago. But I moved down here where his family was from, and I just fell in love with Austin. So I went to school here. And then when I graduated from UT, I left for a few years to go work in other markets in Texas, and then got back here as soon as I could. So I really do, because I've moved so much and I've moved all over the country, really, I feel like I'm from Texas and I'm from Austin because collectively I've lived the most years of my life in Austin, just not, at the same time.
Yeah. And when you graduated from UT, you were an anchor at KVUE, right?
Well, yeah, I wish it was right out of the gate. I was an anchor at KVUE.
That's what I was going to get to. What was from the college to the KVUE anchor? What was that journey like?
Yeah, so I initially went to Texoma. Do you guys know where that is?
No.
I know.
No, I saw that in your bio, like Texoma.
Is that a town?
It's a huge part of North Texas because we all have boats on Lake Texoma. It's like our Lake Travis.
Really?
So, but everyone in Austin, when I say that, is like,
I've never heard of that.
No, Texoma, I think, is just as pretty, if not better, than Lake Travis because the levels stay more consistently.
Okay.
But it's obviously bordering the level of North Texas and Southeast Oklahoma. So I worked in Texoma for a year, and then I went to East Texas, which was its own experience for 2 years.
Like a whole different country.
It really is.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah.
It was kind of fun. It definitely had its own flavor because it's that weird, and I did news in Shreveport and Baton Rouge, so you get that weird like Creole southeastern United States, but also feels like another foreign country.
Were you like by Beaumont up in that little area or
Shreveport? Tyler, Texas.
Tyler.
Yeah. So I was in Tyler. But it was nice. I liked it there. So I was happy there for 2 years, but ready to move up. And so I got the job at KVUE. January 2013 was when I started.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a little bit of a ride to get here. And then I was at KVUE for 7 years before I left.
Were you an anchor that whole time?
Pretty much. When they hired me, they told me, don't expect to become a news anchor. We hired you to be a reporter. I was replacing a reporter who now works for NBC News named Morgan Chesky. Mm-hmm. And within a few months, though, they started having me fill in and shifted some people around, actually, to promote me, which was a little bit of a drama coming from the new kid, pushing other people out to get promoted. But I was so thankful for the opportunity because I really didn't think I'd have. And if I hadn't been promoted, I don't know if I would have stayed as long as I did. But, long term, I thought maybe I'll stick around here for a minute and be like Quita Culpepper and just be part of the community and be there forever. And I loved working with Quita. But I also had that itch, to do something bigger and beyond. So when I got divorced and then met my now husband, he he retired from the Austin Police Department. Yeah.
He was a K-9.
He's a K-9
He comes
officer,
from a family of police officers.
Yes.
Or all of his brothers.
Pretty cool.
One's mounted, and then the other his
So Dan
older
was mounted patrol.
Okay.
And then he just played with the animals. Let's be honest. All the animals.
I went to the zoo every day.
Yes, exactly. Had a tough job. He loves animals.
He
Won't let me
was
kill
on
anything.
6th Street, wasn't he? Didn't
Yeah,
he
they
do
all
the
kind of started there because they make you. But back then, Dan likes to say it was a privilege to be on 6th Street because it was fun. And, it's pretty girls, like young cops.
Yeah.
You can understand how that would be an appeal. But now I think it's a little bit more of a punishment.
You know that I
think so.
used your married name now to get out of a ticket one time?
I also do that.
I did. I was like, please don't give me a ticket. Please don't give me a ticket. And he was like, well, you were in a school zone and, we're really cracking down on it. I was like, do you know the Eveleth brothers? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, please, we're good friends.
If I would have tried that, I would have spent a night in jail. Only you could pull that off.
Yeah. Well, even for me, because I hadn't changed, my name is from when I was in TV. So I haven't changed it. My agent wouldn't let me change it and the station wouldn't let me change it. So I don't have Eveleth as a name. So, but inevitably, because there were 3 of them at APD at the same time, one was a commander, one was a corporal, and then my husband, Dan, senior police officer. And you had to know one of them at some point, So whether you knew my husband or not, you knew an Eveleth.
Yeah.
So I got pulled over one time. Weirdly enough, I was pregnant on Mopac, driving home, and I was pregnant with my second daughter, and I was tired, and I, worked till 11 at night. So you're driving home and it's dark. And I thought I was driving quite well because I think I'm an amazing driver, but I was driving home apparently a little sporadically on the road, and I got pulled over by one of the big Hummers, which I know is the DWI unit. I'm like, well, that's weird. And he pulled me over and he's like, do you know why I pulled you over? And I said, no, I honestly have no idea. I'm coming home from work. I was clearly pregnant. I'm like, I don't know. I wasn't speeding.
Yeah.
He goes, you were swerving and we're the DWI unit and you're displaying signs of being intoxicated, but clearly I hope you're not. And I laughed. I'm like,
Yeah, I
no.
hope not.
And so he's like, well, I need your insurance, blah, blah, blah. And your license, which says Kris Betts on it. So I hand it to him and I didn't say anything because I don't want to be that guy who's like kind of a douchey thing to say, oh, do you? My husband's a police officer. And usually, to be honest, they know me, so I would get out of tickets plenty of times on my own.
Do you not know who I am?
Yeah.
I mean, I've probably seen you at a murder scene at some point. Like, we're cool, right?
I never thought about that.
Yeah,
Jeez.
no, I mean, I knew these guys. That's how I met my husband, was through work. So, I mean, we'd be on the same scenes together for years. So a lot of them I knew. Anyways, he ran my insurance and he came back and he's like, are you related to one of the Eveleths? And I said, I sure am. And he's like, oh, you're good to go. It's great.
Yes, I am.
It's who you know, I swear.
Yep.
I never get out of tickets. I try. I've tried being mean. I've tried being nice. I never
Let me
get
tell
out of
you
tickets.
from experience, because I've done the research on police officers, right? Dated a few of them, married one of them. And they will all tell you, I think, that it's a corrective action. So when they pull you over, it's not to punish you, it's to correct wrong behavior, right?
Yeah.
So they go into it not thinking, and Dan's very adamant about this, I don't know if I'm going to give you a ticket until I talk to you. I go in knowing I need to correct your behavior, but it's how you react and respond that lets me know, okay, I need to give you a ticket. And he said, if you're very apologetic and make it clear, like, I'm so sorry, I won't do this again. You scared me enough. Kind of be friendly, and I think humor helps. He said it's the people that come in like, I didn't do it. I was like, yeah, you're getting a ticket.
You know what, Kris? I think that's probably true, but it also helps to be a good-looking blonde woman.
I know. I said that too. I was like, but come on. Because I was very proud of myself. And I met him. I was like, I've gotten out of a lot of tickets. And I've also gotten a lot of tickets. Troopers, like, there's no mercy,
Oh, no, they don't care.
No, they literally don't care.
Don't
I
care.
had a newborn in the back going to Houston to visit my parents once, and I got pulled over on 71, and I got a ticket. And then, in fact, I got a warrant for my arrest, which came back to haunt me in New York because I forgot to submit the paperwork for my
gosh.
right before I left with the chaos of everything. And so, I got a call in New York. They're like, there's a warrant for your arrest in
This
Texas.
was for a parking ticket or something, or
Traffic,
some kind of
speeding,
some traffic
speeding.
ticket.
Yeah, I was speeding. I tend to do that sometimes, but
Yeah.
I just have places to go. So
I'm a busy lady.
no, but
Things to
Dan, my husband swears it doesn't matter if you're pretty or ugly or young or old. It's all about your behavior.
I tried the one time. I didn't do anything wrong, and I knew that blew
Doesn't
up my
work.
face. I've only been pulled over a few times, but I am real big on, I'm sorry, sir. Yes, what do you need me to do? Hands tended to. I'm about all that.
I mean,
now,
think about
so-
your kids, right?
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
tell them that they're doing something wrong and they're like, I'm so sorry, Daddy, you're right. I won't do it again. And you're absolutely right. I was irresponsible. You're like, okay,
Yeah, here, you want an ice cream?
Yeah, okay. Well, how about I reward you then?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's we're all just basically kids when it comes to the police. Yep.
Yeah. I read somewhere on one of your bio about you that your parents have video of you reporting from the Twin Towers when you were 9 years old. So you've known since you were little that you had wanted to get into journalism.
Yeah, and it's weird because I actually went to school initially at Baylor to be an orthopedic surgeon. I went to like the National Student Leadership Conference. I don't know if that's still a thing, but I interned with the Surgeon General one summer in Washington, D.C., and that was my plan going into Baylor. But I was editor-in-chief of my newspaper at school, and I really liked it. We had won some awards for the rebranded it of the paper, and I'm nosy. So I loved getting in people's business and taking their pictures. I've always been a photographer. I've been taking people's photos. I'm the one who took all the family photos early on. We had to develop it. So my dad, I think, thought I was going to be on camera in one capacity or another. I was always performing. So he was the one who would stick the microphone, in my face in the camcorder and be like, all right, do the weather report from the top of the Twin Towers. So really I have to credit him because he's the one who was always like, you're going to Hollywood, by no acting abilities whatsoever. And he'd always kind of push that a little bit, even when I was really young. We have video of him like, all right, Kris, you're going to Hollywood. So, but it wasn't until the towers fell, I think, was the first inkling of like, watching all the journalists for those days after, what their jobs entailed and how important it felt at the time. Because my parents watched news, but they weren't regular consumers of it. Like some people grow up with the 5, 6, and 10 o'clock news. We weren't those people, but I remember 9/11 thinking, when the world seems like it's ending, this is where people will turn. It's important.
I feel like your parents, not to be off topic, but do your parents live out of the country?
They're in Tokyo.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
So my dad is very successful and always has been very driven. And a lot of that, I credit all of my drive and my passion to succeed in whatever career I'm trying my hand at, this day. In his drive and his ability, he still is the hardest working person I know, because he works in Tokyo all day and then is on the phone all night because he's got to deal with the company with the time difference here in the States. So he still travels constantly. He's in charge of APAC, so Asia Pacific. Now it's including Australia. He's just constantly South Korea, China, Japan, obviously.
What industry?
He's in software sales.
Okay.
So,
have you taken the girls to Tokyo?
No, I would love to. That's a long flight.
Yeah,
I bet it is.
My sister lives in Australia. So I'm like, which long flight are we going to attempt first? I've been over there. My husband and I went, and my parents came back over here and watched, at the time, just my one daughter. So we got to go over there and stay in their apartments at high rise, overlooks Mount Fuji and the whole city. They're in downtown Tokyo. Jeez. It's so cool. So they'll be there. They've been there 7 years, and they'll be there another few years.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Long time.
What a cool life.
When you were in college, I think it was when you were in college, which, by the way, UT Longhorns football is number one.
Yeah.
Which is so nerve-wracking.
Right.
I don't like being number
pressure.
one. It's too much pressure.
Who are they playing Saturday?
Number 2.
Well, last Saturday
Like
they
a
played
nobody team.
UTSA.
Oh, is that right?
Last Saturday it was
Yeah.
like, that was my alma mater. It was like, and then watching Dallas Cowboys play Sunday. That sucked. That was awful. But that's not what I was asking the question for. When did you get into this competitive boxing?
So that's how I met my ex-husband. My sister did Muay Thai.
You beat him up?
Yeah, it was love at first punch. And my sister did Muay Thai, and we're both pretty competitive with each other. So I was like, well, I'm going to try boxing. So I went to a boxing gym when I was at Baylor in Waco. I didn't join a sorority. I didn't feel like I fit into the Baylor culture. So I was looking for something that was mine. And I walked into the boxing gym and had Googled it at the time and just fell in love. I knew then and there that was my family. I was probably the only woman in there in the entire building at the time. It was a bunch of meatheads on one side that all like competitively, it ended up getting shut down later on because of steroid abuse.
Oh, yeah.
They were selling them out of there, and it was clear they were doing it. But then on the other side of the gym, it was like all the boxing kids that were in the wrong side of Waco at the time that were just there to kind of do something productive. And I felt like those were my people.
Wow.
Fell right into it. They used to call me Barbie because we were all named Kris. It was like a bunch of Christophers, me, Kris. So we all had nicknames. BCI was Big Kris. We had CSI, Staph Infection Kris was another one. Yeah. So we all had nicknames. I'm glad I got Barbie.
Yeah, you
But
lucked out.
I got a good one. We had Puddles because he would just sweat so much. He had a
God.
puddle.
Oh, I wouldn't want to fight
All
him.
of us named Kris. So and that's where I met my ex. And so I just fell in love with boxing, and it was a good outlet for me. And it finally gave me someplace I belonged. It was right around Rush. I'm like, this is not for me. I don't like any of this. I don't
Yeah.
have any friends that are, they're
Rah,
all
rah.
doing it. Yeah, it's not my vibe at all. So yeah, I got into boxing then, and I've just kind of kept it up over the years. I've taught my husband now to train too, and he loves it because he taught, they teach fighting in the academy, but it's like street fighting.
Sure.
It's not technical fighting. So he thought he knew how to box, but now he does. And he loved it. And so we have mitts and we do mitt work together.
That's cool.
But
And you would do competitions though? So you would go.
I did Golden Gloves, but I was in college at the time, and I broke my nose in training and my back tooth and everything. I was like, I can't do this if I'm going to be on TV. And my mom did, in fact,
I was going to
say
say,
that.
I bet you was when you were hired by some of these news organizations, they probably said you can't box.
Yeah, well, I was out of fighting. I'm like, she's
got a black eye.
for
Yeah,
it. Yeah, I'm
yeah.
like, but I remember calling my mom about I think it was my tooth or my nose or whatever it was at the point that was broken, and she's like, Kris, your face is your future,
Yeah.
so you need to, because at some point during my freshman year, I did change my major, obviously, to broadcast journalism. I had some broadcast classes that I wanted to take and try out, and I fell in love. I'm like, I have zero interest in going to like organic chem. I'd rather be in this class and pick up a camera. So that's how that transition to news happened.
And is it all like when you're doing the boxing? Is it all by weight class now? Because for those of you that don't know, you are very tall, and I'm sure you get that a lot. But when you would go up against other women and you're just in a weight class, would you have a competitive edge against them?
Well, so the height helps, but I fought at welterweight, and the problem for me was I trained with a bunch of guys, which worked out well to help toughen me up. And I did transition a little bit into MMA at the time. It was becoming
and the height
a thing.
level, right? Yeah.
Well, so they were about my size and height, stronger than me, obviously, but it helped me. But then almost every time I tried to get matched up, and I remember going to the training for Golden Gloves, training. We went to Dallas together as a team, and they couldn't match me up with anybody because a lot of the women that were in boxing were small. So like
were they
weight
smaller?
size too.
I was going to ask
It's
you
like
if they were
fighting a
smaller
toddler.
but the same weight.
It is, and I remember there was one girl that was around my weight, but she was much shorter, larger around. Because when you're my height, you weigh
Is that
more.
not a fair fight?
It depends. So she wailed on my stomach because I couldn't even reach, and she was just kind of coming in and out, wailing on my stomach. So there are advantages to being short. In boxing, for sure, everyone thinks it's, easy being tall with the long reach, but I'm slow. And she came in and just wailed on me, I remember, and then came back out. And I was like, I just couldn't get to her. She was kind of squirrely, That's
where I would think the MMA would be helpful.
I
'cause
liked it better.
My son, Tate, he is really tall, and he was in wrestling, and so his long legs could really help him wrap somebody around.
Yeah. I loved wrestling. I loved the MMA. I did that for a full year. And then when I transferred to UT, I was an intern at CBS Austin in the sports department because I wanted to do sports initially. And so that took up all my time. I was working to pay rent, and then at school full time, I have 2 degrees, history and broadcast journalism. So I was getting 2 degrees after transferring. So it was hard because some of my credits didn't transfer, and so having to basically, my parents like, you have 4 years to graduate, so get that shit done in 4 years. Like,
I did the same with mine.
Yeah, and I got married in school when I was young, so I was dealing with a lot, doing a lot, and I didn't have time to fight anymore, so I would still train, but I stopped fighting. That's the beginning and end of my illustrious boxing career.
That's pretty
at Waco.
It's pretty cool to have that in your background. That's probably taught you a lot of things that you use in your day-to-day life. Being good at boxing.
I really want to teach my girls to box, but when I tell you that I think it would be dangerous for my oldest.
She's scrappy.
Oh my God. I knew in utero that she was so abnormally strong.
Really?
She would kick so hard and hit my ribs, it would take my breath away. And my mom later told me, like, she had 3 of us, she's like, I thought you were just being weak and whiny. So be like, oh my God, and she goes, but she would try to hold her down to change her diaper. And she's like, this child is unusually strong, like Hercules, She doesn't look, she's tall and like a string bean, but she's very strong. And we've learned this with her interactions with other kids that she can hurt them. So we have to be really careful. So when she's a little older, I'll teach her, but I love that it taught me self-confidence.
Yeah.
I was a bartender, and when I was at UT, I bartended off 4th Street, and I'd go home at night in my car by myself with all my cash in my pocket. We didn't really have cell phones. We did, but we didn't have them like we do now. And so you just walked to your car, and I never worried once. I probably should have, but I didn't worry about anybody messing with me or bothering me because I felt capable of defending myself.
See, I think that's huge. I think men and women, there's a lot of people out there that have no idea how to protect themselves. Absolutely none. And that's kind of a scary situation these days.
It is. And I know that if someone tries to get into my house, that if my husband is there, if he's gone between the two of us and we have an attack dog too, that we'll figure it out. And it's nice to know that I can sleep better at night. And when he travels or if he's gone, I don't worry as much because I know I'm capable of. So I want them to have that for sure. So eventually I will train them.
I think it's a
control
huge
themselves.
thing. I want to go back to the journalism. When you got into journalism and you first started working, did you have a romantic idea what it was, and did it change over time?
No, when I got in, we were in, the Iraq War was going on, Operation Iraqi Freedom, whatever they called it back then. And I really wanted to be an embedded journalist in Iraq. And so I was into newspaper first when I was at Baylor. My first 2 years at Baylor, I did print journalism, essentially. They don't have a broadcast program. So I still think print journalism has its place in the world and still tries to maintain what it was, but no one watches. No one reads it anymore. No one buys it. So it's dead. That's the problem.
Steve
it's dying,
does.
right?
Steve's the only person on the face of the planet that still
Go
reads
Steve.
The Wall Street Journal. I mean, the Wall
Me
Street
too.
Journal. Yeah.
That's the one I still subscribe to.
I bet you that's one of the most widely read news sources in the country right now.
Yes. Yeah. And, again, the whole fair and balanced thing, which was a expression actually brought about by Fox News, which, it isn't fair and balanced. None of them are. That idea of fair and balanced journalism, I did try early on to teach that to, once I learned it myself. I had interns, and then I was an adjunct professor at UT. So I would go lecture every semester, and I had a lot of those interns some of them are now in network news, come and work with me for a few months. And I would always tell them, look, the thing I've learned in journalism, despite anything that, sensationalism or anything else is, and you'll hear it from people, that if there's one side of the story, there's always another. Yes. And so whether you believe in and I'm talking not just political, but factual, right? A crime that occurred. Right. You're talking to one person's family about what they think occurred. And even if it seems right and the police say they're right and everything, there's probably other things going on. So it is your job to make sure that you reach out to both sides. And it's not just reach out, but actively try and get it. Because, we reach them out for comment, they wouldn't return our comments. How many times do you hear that?
All the time.
All the time. And it's laziness, honestly.
Right.
Most of the time, it's I shot them an email 10 minutes before deadline. They're already out of the office for the day. Right. You didn't try. So I was very fair in my reporting. And that was one of the things that Dan, my husband now, said that because people, a reporter and a cop, like oil and water, And he said, no, my wife was always very fair, and he knew of my work before he even knew who I was or what I looked like. None of that mattered. But he's like, I remember your work. And that I worked very well with the police departments around Central Texas because they knew I was fair. Similarly, with the other side of things, the people who felt like the police were doing something wrong felt like I was also being fair. So it was always very important to me to be fair. Now, yes, I have seen things change over the years. I think budgets are being cut. People aren't watching news anymore. And it's not that stations are trying to be more biased, I think, necessarily. I think it's a lack of talent.
Really? You think that's what it is?
1,000%. And this is the thing. I'm like, I remember, and I have friends in network news. They're like, we have 23-year-old copy editors. 23-year-olds don't know anything. Yeah. I mean, they're learning, but the spelling errors that come down, factual errors. And these kids, I think when you're inundated with social media and everyone's opinions on everything, you think that that's what you need to do as the opinion. Like, no, we're not, this is not your Twitter. This is the news. So I started seeing the change, and I know this for a fact because I was in it. I was one of them. The people who have the experience are getting out. Because the business is changing, the hours are really hard, and people are getting out.
And the people that are coming in, they're not trained as well, and they they tend to let their biases show.
Yes, they have no idea. They don't know what they're doing, and they have 23-year-old bosses.
Well, the Walter Cronkites of the world no longer exist.
No.
The ones where you know their opinion is not what you're getting. You know you're getting the news, the facts to the best of their ability. I wanted to ask you about, starting off really new, and there's like this glamorous side of being on television, and people think you guys are just rolling in it. And I think it's interesting that a lot of these reporters, when they're first starting out, they're making $10, $12 an hour. Yeah.
Oh my God! If someone had given me $12,
there's the name of the show.
If someone had given me $12 an hour back when I started in 2009, I would have cried. I would have been so happy. I made minimum wage, which was $7.25 an hour, on a 3-year contract. In Texoma, working overnights as a producer, because that was the only job.
Oh my God!
That came out trying to get a sports job, because eventually I was changed from embedded journalist in Iraq to sports. I saw the light. I wanted to do TV. It did seem glamorous and exciting. And I took this overnight job because no one else was hiring. And it was great because I cut my teeth doing literally everything. I mean, we basically were even the janitors at this place because everyone was broke. Everyone was just trying to make their way. And it's very much a first market out of your college, years. And yeah, so for the first year, my paycheck, I think for the end of the year, was like $15,000 or $16,000.
Well, and you're still trying to keep up your appearance and the clothes that you wear, because I'm sure you get. I remember talking to Terry Gruco one time, and she wore something on air, and people, like, half of them hated it, and the other half of them loved it, and she was like, "What am I gonna like? Do I wear it again? Do I not wear it again?"
Yeah,
like. Your appearance, he jokes around with me about when I come to the podcast, like, because we take our pictures with our guests, that I try to wear a different outfit that I've worn with a guest. And Steve has two shirts.
I wear the same three things
Men are
all the
so
time.
lucky. Yes. All of my males, the males I worked with had like 2 jackets and 10 ties. And we just rotate.
Sometimes though you get a little bored, but that's just how it works.
We'll spice it up a little bit.
How did you keep up the appearance side of it? Not just take away the news, but people are judging you for your appearance and what you're wearing and what your hair looks like, and that's got to be wearing on you too, not just your reporting skills.
I say too, I was so broke and we were paying for my ex's legal bills at the time. My first market in TV, he had a DWI I was paying for, and we had no money. So any money I was making was going into paying for that too. I stole paper towels and toilet paper from the station. I did. And I tell this now, I've told this to so many journalists at UT, the aspiring journalists, because like, you need to know that you won't be able to afford paper towels probably at some point, unless you have some parent with a credit card that they're giving you. It's gotten a little better, but not much. And the rent in Austin is so high. I know a lot of these journalists now that I know are working, and that's why they get out, because the money, unless you stick it out long enough, and there is money when you stick it out and you're good, and then again, you have to move.
You got to go to a bigger market, right?
Yep, you got to go move around, or in my case, I had to move to upstate New York to get a big pay jump. And it's a very difficult lifestyle. You're working a lot of weekends, nights, early mornings. I was waking up at 2:30 a.m. on my last job.
Oh my goodness.
And it was miserable. And I liked working nights though.
Scary
I loved
moments.
Nights.
Like any situations where you put yourself in, with your cameraman where it was like, this is sketch.
Literally all the time.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, but I had no fear, and it became a problem because then I was in too close to explosions, too close to SWAT standoffs, got in trouble for that. Waist deep in flood water, which is kind of famous on Reddit now for that. My mom, too, would see the footage and like, Kris, do you know what's in that water? But I loved it. Got too close to a tornado because I really wanted to get it on camera. That my photographer ended up complaining to HR because of it.
She's going to get me killed.
Oh, I mean, during Harvey, our car lifted up and started floating. And I'm like, we got to get out of here. I mean, I wanted to be in it. And I still miss that part of it. Yeah. I loved being in it. I liked the excitement. I wanted to get as close as I could to the danger. And I have no real sense of danger. So I had no problem with any of the dangerous part because I'm like, put me in, coach. My problem was the longer I was in it, the less it was serving me as a person. The hours were difficult no matter what shift you're on. There's no real normal shift because people are either watching news before or after the normal shift, right? So we're there holidays, weekends, and with 2 kids, it just became... the passion for it wasn't there either. And that was a big, hard adjustment for me.
Yeah.
Because it had been my passion for so long.
So you just probably told us, one of my questions was your favorite moments. And it sounds like those favorite moments were those critical events. Yeah. What were some of your worst moments as a journalist?
Well, still some of the worst were some of the most impactful. Speaking to the father of a girl who had been taken from him because they were having a custody issue with his girlfriend. And it's a pretty famous case here in Austin, and I broke it. And so it became a big thing that I had to cover for a while back in 2013, I think. And it was so emotional. And it was a little girl who had been killed by her foster family, was arrested. And then I had to talk to the dad that day. Terry was with me too there. And it was just, I cried on camera for the first time. And the shootings, now having had kids too, anytime there's a school shooting, I start really internalizing it. Whereas before I had kids, you're reading all this bad shit on the news and it's like, okay, well, it's not me. But then you start meeting these people every day. And at some point I'm like, the night beat is what KVU calls the night shift. And I'm like, I'm on the death beat, because it was like 6-7 days in a row, I felt like, of me going to people's doors and knocking on their door when someone had just died.
Oh,
and at some point you're like, I am worn out, but it mattered.
Yeah.
I thought it mattered, and it felt like it mattered. And then making the connections with those people, I'll never forget some of the faces of those people that I met in their worst times. You're there with them, which can be good or bad. Yeah. I always tried to make it at least a good experience with me, and to make sure that when I gained their trust, that I earned it and kept it and was fair. Yeah. And so some of the worst things, I would say, honestly, and what really got me out truly, was that the people I worked with at the station in New York there was some really toxic, horrible, toxic experience.
So that's when you left here, Austin. You went up to New York for a job.
I did, and it was horrible. I should never have left.
4 years ago.
Terrible corporate world.
Right?
Yeah, and it wasn't, it was 4 years ago, right before COVID. I had finished out my 7th year at KVU and just was ready to try something new. Terry and Quita weren't moving, so I was like, all right, I'm not going to take their job anytime soon. I'm going to stuck on weekends again. I need to do something different. So I took this job that seemed like a great gig, and it just was very toxic. And I mean, HR got involved. There were lawsuits with other people bringing forward complaints, and they still would not get rid of these 2 people. And, and one of them got promoted and is still there. And you know why? Because they had experience, and and they were willing to work for the money that they gave them, and they couldn't find anybody. I mean, it's like a shortage of people.
Yeah.
Back when there were 50 people vying for one job, it's one thing, but now trying to find qualified people for these jobs is difficult. And it's a problem for news stations all over.
Yeah, it seems to me like news has gotten very cheap and plentiful.
Well,
and there's people like you said that are not talented. They're writing these articles and really all they're trying to do is get somebody to click on them so that 7 ads can get shown. And there's really nobody's really putting any thought into that, how that impacts people. You were just talking about knocking on somebody's door for a family that just lost somebody and earning their trust. I don't think most journalists do that. They don't have that. Because you weren't earning their trust so that you could get the story. You knew that there was something important that you needed to convey to the public, and you met with those people and got that story out there, got their story out there, and they picked up on that. I don't think most journalists do that anymore. I have a lot of faults. Speeding being one of them. We talked about at the beginning. Go ahead, Michelle.
No.
Go ahead.
You want it alphabetically or numerically?
Yeah.
Where do I start? I have a lot of faults, but I will say I cared so much about doing my job really well, about the people, no matter what path. I mean, I talk to people in fancy mansions. I talk to people living on the street. I talk all walks of life. And I cared about every single one of them. I never went into my job every day thinking, I don't care about this story. I'm not going to do a good job on this. I gave it my all, which is awesome. Perhaps why it was I couldn't not give it my all. So I had to get out because I wasn't going to coast. I said, I'm all in or I'm nothing. And I've taken that now with my interior design company. And that's nice that you said that, because I've had quite a few clients say, I'm just so happy you listened to me, and you become kind of a therapist because you're dealing with people in really stressful circumstances.
Sure.
No, the best laid plans for renovations, it still turns into a little bit of a nightmare towards the end. The money's all coming out the door.
Yeah.
All they're seeing is construction dust. They're tired of it. And I get that. And I've lived through it so many times. And I tell them in the beginning, look, you're going to love me. then you're not going to like me, then you're going to hate me, then you're going to love me.
Yeah.
We're on this wild ride
that's
together.
Great. I like that.
And there are times where I've brought that back up because I have big projects now that are a year plus in the making. And I'll tell them like, remember I told you in the beginning.
I said you're going to hate me. Today's the day.
But I'm used to it. I was in news. I was used to being hated. But then I would come in and earn, and they'd shut my door and literally shut the door in my face sometimes. And then I'd kind of try again and work my way in or call again later and try and be respectful. But yeah, more often than not, they would send me to get stories if anyone else had failed. And it became kind of a joke. Well, send Bets. She can get it. And I think a lot of it's just listening and being empathetic. And
I agree with you. I
people.
think the integrity aspect of it over the last maybe decade or so, you kind of saw how the sausage was made in media, and people got a real look behind the curtain with the Matt Lauer scandal, Rupert Murdoch, all the lawsuits and all the Me Too movement that was kind of going on in media. But what was your center? Like, how did you continue to maintain your integrity? Like, what was it when you're like, you know what, I could really just lay my opinion out here, but my job is now to put the truth out.
Yeah, I think, to be completely honest, it just came naturally. I didn't have to think about it. It was never a temptation for me. I will say, okay, I take that back. Towards the end, and this is another part of why it became difficult working in news, the 2020 to 2022 time period of the police rhetoric going on in news with my husband was difficult.
Sure.
My brother-in-law was commander in the riots during all of the stuff going on in Austin. We were experiencing just as much in New York. And I am the first, and my husband is the first one to say if and when police are wrong. So we have no problem with the anti-police stuff, or when people are upset. We are not one of those people like, well, police are right all the time and how dare you? I would never say that. And I love him because he wouldn't say that either. And he's the first one to get angry when police make everyone else look bad or do something wrong, because like a pastor of a church, I mean, people trust you, right?
Sure.
It's a lot of power that people are given to you, and it's taxpayers' dollars paying for your job. I understand. But just like teachers, doctors, pastors, police, there are people, and people are inherently going to make, I believe that people are inherent sinners. And so they're going to make mistakes in any job that they have. And so whether you have a high stakes job or you have a job that no one sees your mistakes, we all make the mistakes. I think making people think that they're never allowed to make mistakes or learn from them is the problem. And I felt like a lot of the anti-police rhetoric, it's like they could do no right, but I understood why they were upset, obviously. But it became very frustrating seeing it start what I thought became so one-sided at some point. And I was the first one to do the police acting wrong stories. But I also felt like there were police acting right or doing the right thing, and no one was. It was just, it was very demonized at the time. And I felt it viscerally because it's such a close tie to our family. So I think coming out of it, if I had stuck it out, it would be fine now. But I always made sure when I trained my journalists and as an anchor, you have reporters that that report to you and say, you need to make sure you're being fair, because at the end of the day, there's two sides to every story. Sure. And our job is to hold people accountable for the truth. And if it's your truth, then that's not the truth. Right.
You just touched on something. So I was having a conversation with my dad a couple of days ago, and he gets his news from different sources than mine. And we were talking about Pete Buttigieg, the transportation secretary. Mm-hmm. From his news, Pete Buttigieg is one of the smartest people on the planet, and can do no wrong, and he should have been the nominee for president. And from my news sources, he's an idiot and a meme factory. Like, everybody makes fun of him, and it blows my mind that the media has gotten so split that it's all opinion, and everything that you read sort of enhances that opinion. How did we get to this point where
because clicks, because no one goes on the internet and clicks on someone who's like, yeah, they were nice. No one cares.
Yeah.
Would you?
Yeah.
And you mentioned it earlier, ad dollars, click.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So when you're vying for attention and there's so much content now out there, before it was the big networks, and that was really your only source. So we could be more fair,
Sure.
and we weren't trying to grab your attention with really headlines that are misleading. And a lot of times the content in the body of the article is a little better.
Yeah.
But most people don't even read the body of the,
I
no
know.
matter where you're reading it from.
I'm
They're reading
guilty
the
of
headlines.
that just as much as anybody else.
We have collective ADD, and it's very hard to grab people's attention. And it seems like it either has to be horrific or one extreme to the other, no matter what, to get your attention long enough to read it.
I would just think if I was in college and I wanted and I had an interest in journalism, I'd be turned off because I don't feel like it's an honorable thing anymore. It's like
I still think there are a lot of honorable people doing a lot of work out there. The hard thing is, I think by the time they hit their mid to late 20s, the job itself, no matter how you feel about it, is difficult.
Yeah.
And
Where are you continuing to get your news source from? So
that's a great question.
I like Reuters. Like, if you want to go kind of up the middle, I'm a Wall Street Journal girl as well. I do subscribe to the New York Times in my email, so I see it, but I go in knowing there's a strong bias that I can sense. Whether I agree with it or not, I sense it. I know it. I like Reuters and the AP. So I feel as journalists, the AP was always a nice, steady, like stalwart for us.
Right.
So I just can't read. I don't even subscribe. I used to have them in my Instagram feed and all that, and I've unsubscribed from all of them because I'm like, nope, I know what this is going to be. Now it's all design. I've curated the perfect Instagram. Just design, pretty.
Yeah,
You know,
I
it's
like
funny
that.
you bring up design because and ad clicks, you were in the business of selling somebody else's story, and now you're in the business. Technically, you have to sell yourself. You have to sell who you are. You can't essentially hide behind a news story.
Right.
So the whole social media aspect of owning your own business, being a small business owner, sucks, doesn't it not? It's like, it's just...
I hate being on camera now. I really do. Okay, so I was on camera for so long. I hate it. I mean, even today, coming in, I'm like, I'm going to be on camera. And I've had so many people ask to do things where I'm in front of the camera. And sometimes I say no. 'Cause I'm like, I don't want to be on camera. I had a couple producers reach out when I first, announced I was leaving news and starting my own design company. And a lot of people were transitioning careers at that point, post-COVID, asking to shoot pilots or whatnot. I'm like, I just have no interest anymore. I think I'm burned out from all of it. I don't realize how much I hate being on camera until I'm back on it. So I do have to sell myself, but I feel like now I'm trying to sell my designs. So I'm like, here's a pretty room I did, but I do not want to be in this photo anymore. And it's such a relief. I mean, I don't worry about every zit or hair out of place anymore, or a couple of pounds gained or whatever it is. So much less stressful. And yeah, running a business is hard. It is the hardest thing. Well, now I have a 7-year-old who's coaches. I'm like, it's one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I have to wake up every day knowing it's going to be the wildest ride today already.
Yeah.
My God, y'all. Like, I woke up this morning. It's been problems.
Yep.
I'm dealing with projects in New York too. And it's like they're an hour ahead. So it's problems start at like 6 a.m. and then they'll go, in the evening. I try to shut it off now. It's my 3rd year. So I'm learning to create some structure,
boundaries,
boundaries.
Steve always says, at being a small business owner, every day you wake up unemployed. So you're always having to do the
constantly
hustle.
trying to find the next job that gets you a paycheck.
Yes, you are.
Which is challenging and rewarding at the same time.
It's so satisfying.
It
Chasing
is.
your own money, though, sucks. Like, hey, where's that money? Like, spend half my time, like the
that
bounty
part
hunter
sucks.
trying to track down money.
But looking back, somebody hires you and then you walk them in and it's all finished and they're so happy. That's got to be really rewarding.
It's the freaking best. It's the best. I really loved in news that turnaround of like, okay, I came in every day, most days not knowing what my story would be. You pitch your story, you have like 6 hours to try and be all over the place to get interviews enough to from both sides to put it together and good B-roll and shoot your stand up. And then you have to cut it, edit it with your photographer, get it on the air by 10. It's on Facebook and the internet after you're seeing the comments and the reaction. And then boom, that's done. Then the next day it's something again, starts over. So it's very satisfying having that beginning, middle, and end every day.
Sure.
And at first when I started my business, it was hard to slow it down a little bit. I was waiting for that, like, everything's great, you did a great job reaction that I was getting from viewers, every day. Now I was like, they're just angry, you know, like they're stressed, like things aren't coming in on time, or it's dusty. You know, we try to mitigate those problems, and I've gotten really good at managing expectations. But yeah, these big projects take time and patience and money and
patience
now,
and patience.
patience. Now I'm like, okay, but think about how much more satisfying it will be a year later as opposed to a day later when they see it. But knowing I get to be a part of people's everyday lives in their homes feels still just almost as important to me, if not more than news did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like you live in it.
See that. The big thing you just mentioned that Michelle and I talk about all the time, managing expectations, is, as a business owner, is gigantic.
Huge.
If you're not doing that with your clients and your customers, you're not going to do very well.
No, and I have lived through renovations so much myself that I come in like, hey, I've lived in it. I understand. Not only do I do this for a living, but I've lived in it. I understand it's difficult. So managing expectation and communication. And I find that it's not clients' faults if they're disappointed or upset or frustrated. It's just maybe communication wasn't clear. So now between me, my contractors, and or my GC and his vendors and tradespeople, if there's lines of communication, and I track everything through email, I will find that email if you're saying I'm not. It was in an email. So I email everybody and cover all the bases. That sets up a much smoother experience. And I have learned that, and my clients learn that. Because communication is half the battle.
I was going to say over communicate, and what you do, you want to over communicate, because you never want somebody sitting at their house that's all torn up going, what is Kris doing today? I don't, you know,
why is
even
no one
though
here?
you might be, you might have 15 things going on, but if they don't
with her
know
kids,
it, then you're in their mind, you're doing nothing. So,
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
she's like, oh, she's on the beach with her kids, and here I am with no sink, no bathroom. Go ahead, Kris, enjoy your time.
Let me ask you one question, Kris, that I think our listeners, what kind of trends are you seeing right now that you think are sort of long lasting in design?
That's a good question. I know I can tell you a lot of trends that I hate that I think will
You could tell us
burn
that
out.
too.
I hate right now, because I lived through it, I think in the 90s, that we all had I love wallpaper, but right now those tiny prints, almost like Laura Ashley look is coming back. Hate it. I think it's very grandma chic.
It's the Love Shack fancy trend.
The Love Shack.
It is.
Well, and that's sort of, that was that kind of flared up in the early 2000s too. And that was that shabby chic look.
Oh,
this
that's
is
right.
more like your English grandmother's look. It's the dark
Nancy
maroons.
Myers.
Yeah, it's the dark greens. And I
wouldn't
think
like
it's
that.
because Handmaid's Tale, those houses, that they're set in are very traditional and can be now. It could also be 100 years ago. So technically it's kind of timeless. I just don't like it. It makes me feel suffocated. I feel like I smell mothballs when I look at it. I'm like, I also think it is trendy. We're leaning so hard into it right now. It's becoming trendy. A timeless trend. And that's a lot of what I do. And I feel like it's why I get hired. I'm not going to be the most cutting edge designer. I'm not going to be crazy with my things. Whoa, I try to do things that are unique.
Yeah.
But what I really think I do well is communicate with clients and understand and listen.
Yeah.
And also find things that are timeless, because I think there are certain wood tones that are timeless. There's certain colors that are pretty timeless, certain tiles that are pretty timeless. And the things that are not as timeless, like gold is huge right now. And I think there's an accent, a kind of gold that's pretty timeless, but there are other golds that aren't. And I tell clients, look, if you're going to do gold, or let's put it in the lighting or the knobs or somewhere where because your pot filler and your sink and all those things that are expensive should be more timeless pieces. So I'm like,
that makes sense.
Let's do things that are in this, in some of the work we're looking at right now. There are things that are gold that are easy to change out, but things that are relatively timeless, I think, like satin nickel is pretty timeless. Black is timeless.
Yes.
Those things, do that for the expensive stuff, because other things are relatively easy to change out over time.
It's easy to change out knobs or handles over time, but
Right, and you can have fun with that.
I'm also seeing a more trend towards more nature, by the biospheric kind of bringing the outside in, and like you said, mixing the stone and the wood.
A lot of warm
and that's what I'm
materials,
going through a renovation right now. That's what I'm leaning to. But people are saying, oh, the farmhouse is dead. Well, it's like, okay, well, it depends on where you are and what your style, just to to blanket say the farmhouse, shiplap.
I have found that the style here is already a lot different than what I was doing in New York.
I bet.
Because the style of the home, and that's what I tell people, your home's style should tell you what it kind of dictates. Because look, I love the way people look in rompers, but I look like a giant stupid baby. And it's like, it's just not going to work because my shell of my body is a certain way. So you can love a design feature, but if your home isn't speaking to it, there are beautiful modern farmhouses that look beautiful, and they look, I like them. If your home is traditional on the outside, then don't try and bring in English on the inside.
Sure,
Do you know what
sure.
whatever it is? Cool California on the inside, like ivies on. It just doesn't make sense. So the first and foremost, I'm like, let's see what your house is saying, and then what you have that you want to keep, and then we'll kind of work from there, layering it in. But I like to kind of experiment around because I think each house is different and dictates the style. But yes, a lot of natural materials are coming in right now. People are doing all the travertine is coming back, which is another one from the 2000s. I was like, well, it's back. I saw it a lot at market when I went to market at High Point. A lot of travertine, still a lot of neutrals. So we're still leaning into
white
that,
oak.
like cream, white oak. I think the white oak though is going to start fading out eventually. First off, on our end as designers, I'm doing quite a bit of it in a house right now that we basically tore down to the studs and are building back up in Westlake. And I wanted to stain the white oak like a medium brown because these homeowners agreed too. And I love white oak, but I feel like the all white oak everywhere is kind of that Shea McGee style. That's big, like Target has it now and everyone is trying to mimic it. Amber Lewis does it a lot. And I just feel like it's going to be like the shiplap, like 10 years ago. And it was all of the Magnolia home.
Yeah.
We got to be careful about all this white oak because
I would bet if you walk into Target and you see something that is in Target, that means it's the end of that trend.
it's jumped the shark a little bit.
It's pretty much over. I love your website is krisbetsdesigns.com. You've got some great
Beautiful.
stuff here.
Thank you,
really,
guys.
really pretty.
And I think some of these pictures, are they not of your own house?
Yeah. So when we
one
moved,
of them when you did, is that no, that wasn't.
I wish that was mine. That was my client's house. I always want to move into my client's houses when I'm done. No, we are currently working on renovating our own home because it's a never ending renovation, as my poor husband will tell you. Because I renovated it 8 years ago when I was in news. But then my style has changed now and it's become much more expensive.
Yes.
I mean, sophisticated.
I can see why you and Michelle get along.
Yeah. Sophisticated. I mean,
sophisticated. And so when we moved back here in February, I was like, what?
Like that.
We need to redo everything. And what you're seeing now too, these are marbles that are timeless. Carrara and Calcutta marble are forever timeless because they were used during the building of the Roman Empire. And we still use them to this day. So that's how you know something will stand the test of time.
I love all the textures that you use too. It's just really,
I'm a big fan
beautiful.
Of wood. Don't y'all like?
Yeah, I do. I like wood.
It's very warm and comfortable.
Cozy.
Yeah. Agreed.
I feel like no matter what color you have, you should have a lot of wood in your house.
I think you got to do your rapid fire. We're almost out of time. So.
Okay.
Rapid fire questions.
Rapid fire.
She's like going to hit you with some easy, quick ones.
Where's the coolest place you snuck in with a press pass? Concert?
No, I don't know. I never used it to my advantage. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Shame. We're going to use ours to our advantage.
We're using ours to our advantage. What was your favorite news story of all time? Your top favorite?
I mean, the one I won the Emmy for, I felt like it's still the Rodney Reed one. I think still
that one is the favorite.
Stands.
What was the quick overview of that?
So Rodney Reed is a prisoner on death row here in Texas, and I went into that story thinking one thing and came out thinking something else, and thought I was very fair on it, which I'm still proud of to this day. And it was a wild ride. Yeah. And I interviewed people that had never gone on camera before for this victim that had never gone on camera, and earning her trust took a lot of work. Wow. And she afterward was like, thank you. You did a great job. Really? So like that mattered a lot. But I'm very proud of that piece, and I still think it's interesting when I watch it. Some of them
have to rewatch that one. Okay. So when you were in New York, I used to watch your stories, and you would talk a lot when you'd come back. You're like, oh, my margarita. Yes. Oh, I got some tacos or whatever. What's your favorite Austin go-to Tex-Mex place?
Maudie's for the Mexican martinis. Yep. And then Jack Allen's has some killer Mexican martinis.
Oh, there you go.
So, and now I make a killer Mexican martini.
New York winters or Texas summers?
Texas summer.
And my favorite one, I was proud of myself when I did this question. What's your favorite smartass response when someone says something about your height? Do you have like
So
a
many.
favorite?
Hey, Kris, how's the weather up there?
Yeah.
Fuck off. I don't know. That might be my favorite right now. Fuck off. No, actually, recently, because I'm not an asshole, I swear. I'm very nice, and people say out in public, "Oh my God, you're so tall," and I just got it the other day, and I was like,
Oh my
"Thanks."
God, I am.
I pretty much said it to you right when you walked in. I'm like, Michelle, stand next to her.
Yeah.
She's like 2 feet taller than you.
You're like, I am.
I know. I'm almost 40 years old. I'm aware at this point in my life.
How tall I am.
My whole family is all over 6 feet tall, and there's 5 of us. We have a 6'8", a 6'5", 6'3", and I'm at 6'1".
6'8".
Yeah, so we're all over the 6 foot map, and so I'm used to it. But yes, it's still never gets old.
It never gets old for sure. Kris, thank you so much for joining us. I've chased you around for a couple of months trying to get you on, and you've been so busy coming back and forth from New York and doing all your design. But I really appreciate you spent your morning with us. And
I was looking forward to this one, and it was even more fun than I expected.
Aw, thanks,
so
guys.
yeah, I'm really thrilled that you came on with us.
Yeah, no, this is fun. Let's do it again.
absolutely.
We can.
There you
yeah.
go.
You know, as things progress in journalism, we probably could get a whole nother episode about it because things are looking a little weird out there sometimes.
Yeah.
It's sad to see
Yeah,
it.
it
It's like
is.
something you love slowly dying.
I
It's
can
sad.
see that. Yeah. That was one of the things I was thinking about that you put so much time and effort into it, and it's not what it used to be when you were doing it. So, well, thank you, Kris Betts, for coming in. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Ready to turn your land dreams into reality? Look no further than Capital Farm Credit.
Need a loan for your perfect piece of land? Capital Farm Credit is there for you.
Their dedicated team will tailor a loan to fit your unique needs because your dreams are their priority.
Capital Farm Credit. Your land, your legacy. Visit capitalfarmcredit.com or Mark Rutledge at 512-892-4425.
Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better.
Capital Farm Credit, an equal credit housing lender.
Nomic Power Solutions, keeping you powered up.
Get to know your local full-service Generac dealer.
Cody and Dylan with Nomic Power Solutions are a veteran-owned, Texas-based Generac dealer and installer.
Offering low monthly payment options, it's never been easier to gain independence from the grid.
Call or text 512-387-4232 or visit nomicpower.com. Follow on Instagram at Nomic Power for updates.
Turnkey service including design, plumbing, electrical, and permits.
They even offer set-it-and-forget-it maintenance plans. Nomic Power Solutions.
Protect your home. Protect your family. Stay ready. Elevate your living experience with M. Elliott Studio, your trusted partner in interior design, registered and licensed by the state of Texas.
You want your home to reflect your personal style and identity. Investing in a well-crafted design doesn't just beautify your home, it enriches your life.
Team principal and owner, Montana Elliott, understands the profound impact of a thoughtfully designed space. From remodeling to full design, M. Elliott Studio is the first step to unlocking your style.
Turn your aspirations into reality. Tailored to your taste and desires, M. Elliott Studio will work to create an environment that embraces your style with style.
Your space, their expertise.
melliotstudio.com 512-781-0224.
This show has been brought to you in part by the real estate pros at the Mallet Integrity Team. When you're looking to buy or sell, you need them on your side. Why settle for less when you can have real estate done right? Give them a call at 512-829-2062 or get more info at malletintegrityteam.com.
You know you like us, so go now to Apple Podcast or Spotify and leave us a review. Why don't ya? We love your feedback and comments. Email us at malletandmichelle@gmail.com.
Thanks for putting up with us.